You're listening to How to Drink Less, and I'm your host, Adriana Cloud. Whether your goal is to cut back, take a break, or say goodbye to alcohol for good, this podcast will help you stop drinking on autopilot, learn how to manage cravings, and feel fully in control around alcohol. It's easier than you think. Listen on to find out how. Hi everyone, thanks for joining me for another episode. Dry January is almost over, and today I want to talk about what comes next. First of all, if you're still doing Dry January, well done. I'm really proud of you. You're doing amazing, and I hope that you've learned a lot about your habits over the past few weeks and that you've had fun along the way too. And if you started Dry January and abandoned it somewhere along the way, congratulations, you tried something new. A lot of people don't even try, but you did. It doesn't matter if you lasted 2 days or 2 weeks before you decided that it wasn't for you. What matters is that you showed up. You were honest with yourself about wanting something different, even if you weren't fully prepared for what it would take to be alcohol-free for a month. You're not alone, and that's normal. Change takes time. And finally, if you didn't even attempt Dry January, it wasn't for you, or you were worried that it would be too hard, doesn't matter what the reason was, I've got good news for you as well. There's still 11 months left of this year, and there's the rest of your life too. It's never too late to try something different. You haven't missed the boat, and you most certainly don't need to wait until next January to do something about your drinking. If you want to drink less, the date on the calendar is irrelevant. You can start anytime you want. That's why we're here. That's why this podcast exists. Now, here's what I want to unpack with you today. The difference between taking a break from drinking for a limited time and making sustained changes to your drinking habits for the long term. Of course, taking a break is powerful on its own. People who stop drinking for a month report having more energy, sleeping better, being in a better mood, and experiencing less anxiety. And of course, your liver appreciates the break as well. Taking a break from drinking is good for you, period. So if you took a break for a time and you plan to get back to drinking, please know that you still did your physical and mental health a huge favor. And plus, you get to reap all the other benefits of participating in a challenge, like building confidence, having new experiences, setting and achieving goals, and so on. These all count too, so well done. But if you're trying to change your relationship with drinking in the long term, that's quite different from gritting your teeth through cravings for a limited time period. Taking a break and making long-term changes require different skills, actually. They require a different attitude and a different approach and a different kind of plan. What you have to do in order to make it through a month without alcohol is different from what you have to do if you want to drink less in general or if you want to be completely sober. The obvious comparison here is with dieting. Think about the difference between going on a strict diet for a month and what happens when the diet is over, and think about what it looks like when you make sustained changes to your eating habits day after day. But I think decluttering is the better analogy. Dry January is like a deep clean that you do once a year. You get into every corner, you vacuum under the furniture, you take every book off the shelf, you go through your closet and donate clothes you don't wear, you throw out everything from your kitchen that has expired, and for a couple of days, you get to enjoy the spotless surfaces and you feel lighter because you got rid of a lot of stuff. But if nothing changes about how things come into your life and into your living space, or how you tidy up and organize your stuff on a daily basis, then guess what? The clutter slowly returns. Not because you're lazy or dirty or messy, but because the way you live your daily life didn't change. Your systems didn't change. And again, This is not to dismiss the value of a break from alcohol or of doing a deep declutter every once in a while. They're definitely useful. But if you want your drinking to look different on an ongoing basis, on the average Tuesday and the average week in March or October, it's not enough to use willpower to order a mocktail when everyone else around you is on a double gin and tonic. What needs to change is the system. Your beliefs about alcohol, how you approach cravings, what your routines look like, what you replace alcohol with, and so on. As a quick aside here, I also want to caution you about a dry January rebound, which is what I used to do back when I was a drinker. The couple of times when I did dry January, by the time the challenge ended, I felt so virtuous and I felt like I'd earned the alcohol. So for the first week in February, I drank even more than I had been drinking before starting dry January. So if this is you, I want you to know this is completely normal. We've been conditioned to believe that alcohol is fun and enjoyable, and therefore, if we give it up, it's like a sacrifice we're making, and we want a reward for the sacrifice. So if you notice that that's where your mind goes, try not to judge it, but just approach this attitude with curiosity and see if you can reframe that in a more useful way. Number one, remember why you decided to do dry January in the first place. Why do you want to drink less? What felt off about your drinking before you started that challenge? What do you want more of or less of going forward? And number two, think about what you can learn from your dry January. It doesn't matter if you stayed sober the whole month or half the month or only for 2 days. What did that experience teach you about alcohol, about yourself, about where you get your joy from, and about your social circle? What did you notice? What lessons can you carry forward with you? And then let's talk about what comes next. Again, if you just wanted a break and you're okay with how much you're drinking and how you feel when drinking, that's great. Carry on. You know I won't ever be the one to judge you. But if you don't want to get back to drinking on autopilot, and if you want saying no to alcohol to feel easy and joyful rather than something that you have to brace yourself in order to do, I want you to listen carefully to what I have to say next. The biggest mistake I see people making when they try to change their drinking habits is they try to change everything all at once. They want to do a complete overhaul of their lives and just flip a switch. And sure, this can work for some people. Some people do quit cold turkey. They just decide one day for the next that they're done with alcohol and they never look back. But for most of us, sustainable change looks different, and it starts small. It starts with what's doable in your life today, not when life comes down, not when you feel more ready and more inspired, not when you have an empty stretch in your social calendar. The clue is in the name. Sustainable change means change that you can maintain over time under all kinds of conditions, as opposed to something that you can push yourself to do only for a limited amount of time. If you want to see real changes, start small. For example, try delaying the first drink, or pouring smaller portions, or drinking more slowly so one drink lasts longer. And pick just one thing to experiment with, not 5. The other way to approach this is to choose one scenario where you always drink and focus on changing just that. That might be weeknights at home watching TV with your partner, or drinking while making dinner, or happy hour with your friends every Thursday where you always end up overdoing it. The point is, you change one aspect of the habit, and then you use the skills and the learnings from that to build on it. It's a lot easier to keep going once you have momentum and you've already seen some wins. And this is why I have a special offer that I want to talk to you about. It's called the Trigger Breakthrough, and it's a targeted coaching sprint where we zero in on one specific situation where you end up drinking more than you wanted. It's 3 sessions, and in those 3 sessions, I will help you to completely rewire the habit loop that has been running on autopilot so that alcohol is no longer the default choice. It's no longer a done deal. In the trigger breakthrough, we're not going to go into your entire history with drinking, but instead, we focus on practical support for the moments when you need it the most. It's fast, it's laser focused, and it's life changing because you will finally start to feel in control. And the reason I'm offering this now is because the trigger breakthrough is the perfect transition from dry January into a longer term change, because it will give you the tools that you can rely on in your everyday life, regardless of what the calendar says. I have just a handful of spots open for the special offer, and applications for the trigger breakthrough will close at midnight on January 31st. So if this sounds like the kind of support you need, check out the link in the show notes and let's help you build up your confidence that you're not powerless over alcohol. Even in the situations where in the past it might have felt like it's impossible to go without drinking. I had a client who was used to having a glass of wine while cooking dinner every day. She couldn't imagine prepping food in the kitchen and not drinking. But that's what we worked on. I taught her how to neutralize the cravings when they inevitably showed up at 6 p.m. And in just 3 sessions, she was able to stop opening the wine. Not by gritting her teeth, but by teaching her brain to respond differently to the trigger of being in the kitchen in the evening. It's not about working harder, it's about having the right tools when you need them, and that's what I'll give you in the trigger breakthrough. Again, the link to learn more and apply is in the show notes, so go and check it out today. Otherwise, I'll leave you with this. No matter what happened in January, it's still up to you what happens in February and beyond. If you want change that lasts, and more importantly, change that feels easier to maintain, start small and build on that. That's all for today, my friends. Take care, and I'll talk to you next week. If you're looking for practical advice for how to say no to alcohol and say yes to yourself, you will want to get on my email list. Sign up to receive my free guide with 7 steps to kickstart your sobriety. The link is in the show notes, so go and grab it now, and I'll see you soon in your inbox.